Hi, I'm Chris Cooper. Welcome to the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Thanks for joining us. If you thought pumpkin was just for pie, think again. Today, we're going to show you how to make a tasty dish using pumpkin as an entree. And Mr. D is here to help us extend the life of our gardening tools with advice on how to winterize them. All that and more is coming up next on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. So stay with us.
This is a production of WKNO Memphis. Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Goodwin's Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi, welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Sherri Morris. Ms. Sherri is a UT Extension agent in Fayette County, and Mr. D is here.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me.
And I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here too, Sherri. This is going to be real fun.
Yes, it is.
We're going to take good care of you, all right?
Good. And I'm going to take care of you with some food to try.
Yes, you are. I hope Mr. D brought his appetite.
I did. I'm hungry.
Okay.
Hear my stomach growling?
I'm with you on that. So what are we making today?
We are going to make pumpkin lasagna.
Pumpkin lasagna.
That's right. And before anyone goes, ooh, I don't want to, you've got to see how it's made.
Okay.
And hopefully when you try it, that'll convince people to try it as well at home.
Okay, well.
Sure smells good.
It does smell good, so let's get started.
Okay. The first thing is a very easy, simple recipe, has very few ingredients. Those that are vegan or vegetarian, this has no meat in it, and a lot of people think your normal lasagna has your tomato based and meat, but this is more of a savory dish. Lasagna just stands for the type of noodles that we use, and it's a layering. So we're going to start by sauteing in a little olive oil, 1 small onion that's been cut and diced up, and then you can use any type of small mushrooms that are sliced. And I was lucky at my local grocery store, they had some on sale, so I just used some regular mushrooms, and they also had some baby portobello mushrooms.
Okay.
So you just put this in your skillet, and you want to saute until they become translucent. And
translucent.
that means right now the onions, they look almost solid white.
Sure.
As they start to get tender, they'll become more translucent, more clear looking, and the mushrooms will become a darker brown color.
Wow. Listen at the cooking terms, so like they're translucent.
That's right, translucent and tender.
Tender.
Okay, and I'm going to put a little salt in here, just about a half a teaspoon of salt. And those that don't want to add salt, this is purely optional.
Okay.
And we're using pumpkin as our base. We're going to mix it with a ricotta cheese. So it's going to be layered with ricotta cheese, mozzarella, and Parmesan cheese with the lasagna noodles. Okay, and pumpkin, because it is a orange, some people want to say it's a vegetable, but it's basically a fruit. Grows on a vine. In fact, you can eat the flowers of the pumpkin vine.
How about that?
Yes, you can. Now, you can make your own pureed pumpkin. The pumpkin that it calls for, you need to use can-packed pumpkin or pumpkin puree. You don't want to use the pumpkin pie mix that comes in a can. That has had sugar and spices added to it. You want just the plain canned pumpkin that says packed pumpkin.
Plain pumpkin.
Just plain pumpkin. That's all that's in it. Check the ingredient list. It'll just say pumpkin.
Not the pumpkin on my porch?
No, not the pumpkin on your porch. Now, those that really have the time and want to go through that endeavor, you can take a pumpkin, roast it, peel it, puree it all, but that takes a lot of time.
That seems like a lot of time.
And actually, the pumpkins that we use at Halloween on our porches, they're not really for baking. Those aren't considered pie pumpkins. Your pie pumpkins you can get in the grocery store. They're much smaller. And those are easier to, of course, cut up.
All right, Mr. D, so leave that on your porch.
That's right, leave it on your porch. Actually, pumpkins, you know, now we think of pumpkin pie, but actually in colonial times, the actual pumpkin was used as the, quote, crust of the pie. They would take out the seed, of course, cut off the top,
Okay.
take out the seeds. Then they would pour their milk and eggs and spices into that.
How about that?
And then bake the whole pumpkin in the ashes of their fire. And so that was the beginning of our first pumpkin pie.
Really?
Yes.
I want to look at pumpkin pie the same.
No, you won't. And you know, somebody could, in fact, the pumpkin itself can be used as a container. You can bake it in the oven, roast
Okay.
it, and then you can serve chili out of it, or you can put an actual bowl inside the cut out pumpkin. Pumpkin.
Sherri, look at all of this.
We need to do
all
that.
this. And
want that.
yes, in fact, pumpkins at one time were thought to get rid of freckles. But-
Freckles.
Yes, but don't try that
Okay.
because it's not going to work. But pumpkins are full of vitamin A.
Okay.
Anytime you see an orange or yellow fruits and vegetables, that should say A, beta carotene.
Okay.
Beta carotene is a very good antioxidant
Okay.
that research is finding helps to ward off certain cancers, helps to prevent the aging process, helps to ward off other diseases in our bodies, especially heart disease and
Okay.
cancer. So we want to look for fruits and vegetables that are high in antioxidants. And pumpkin, because it's orange,
All right,
is
here's
an
orange.
excellent source of vitamin A, a good source of vitamin C, and a good source of potassium.
Okay.
So what I like about using pumpkin is if you're trying to get your children to eat their colorful fruits and vegetables, this is a way to sneak it in.
Sneak it in on them. All right.
So we are sauteing this, and I'm going to ask
Well, I
if
get
you
to
would.
stir?
You get to stir.
Oh, we're going to put Mr. D to
And
work.
what we're going
Can
to
I
do
taste
now.
it yet? Or
No, it might, it's a little bit too hot. It won't taste as well. What we're going to do is we're taking our canned pumpkin. Remember, just the pure
just the
packed,
pure? Okay.
not the pumpkin pie mix
Okay.
that comes in a can. You don't
Okay.
want that.
All right.
So we're adding a 15-ounce can of the pure pumpkin. This is a half a cup of half and half, and this is actually fat-free half and half. If
Okay.
you want to use the real stuff,
So you can?
you can do
Okay.
that, but this will just be a lower fat version. So we're adding this. We're going to add a half teaspoon of salt.
Okay.
I've got some rubbed sage and just some pepper. And the rubbed sage is different than the ground sage. It's not as powdery. The rubbed sage has more, looks more, you can see actually the
Yeah.
leaf in it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit more aromatic. But you just mix all this up.
Sherri, have you done this before?
I have done
Okay.
this before. I
You're doing a
have.
good job.
That's almost a UT orange, isn't it?
Close to it. So you mix this up and it's starting to smell good.
Yes,
Doesn't
it
that
is.
smell good? Okay, now we can turn this skillet off because as you can see, the mushrooms have gotten a deeper brown.
They have.
The onions have gotten translucent, a little bit
You
clear.
want me to turn it off?
That'd be perfect.
Yeah, they are becoming translucent.
Yeah,
yes,
that's our word.
translucent.
Yeah.
Go and use that term. All right, now this is the easy
Okay,
part.
here's the easy part.
I'm going to spray this 11 by 7 casserole dish. I think you turned it to 400. We're going to turn it to off.
Hey, I like power.
Yeah, it's going to go from translucent to not there.
The first thing we're going to do is just take some of the pumpkin sauce.
Okay.
And we're just going to put this in the bottom of the pan. And you're thinking, why do we do that? Well, because we're going to layer the lasagna noodles over this. And this just keeps the lasagna noodles moist underneath and prevents sticking. Next, we're going to we don't have to boil these. Just get them out of your package. Sometimes you have to just break some off to get them to fit in your pan. But we're going to make layers. Okay. We're going to take some of our mushroom and onion mixture and we're going to layer over this.
How did you get so good at doing this? It's a lot of practice. Or, okay.
But it's really not that hard.
Okay.
As you can see, you're just layering. There's really no rhyme or reason. You're just going to layer. Okay. Then we've got ricotta cheese. Yeah. Now, this is a low-fat version. You can also get a whole milk version or the good stuff. Or, you know, if you're eating real Italian food, a lot of ricotta cheese was originally made from sheep's milk. But this is just good old dairy cow milk.
Good old dairy cow.
And we're just going to put some of this, layer that, kind of smooth that on. And I'm using a half a cup per layer. So And as I said, once it cooks, it'll all kind of meld together. All right, we're going to take some of our pumpkin mixture and layer that, another layer on that.
So we had a layer at the bottom. Okay, now we're going to put another layer.
Okay. All right, and you can just move that around. All right, we're going to put, I've got mozzarella cheese. You can use, this is part skim mozzarella cheese if you're trying to watch the fat intake.
No, we don't want to
So
watch
this
that.
this dish is a good calcium source.
Okay.
Let's see, we also have Parmesan cheese. I like to get the refrigerated Parmesan cheese. I think it tastes better than the, dry that you sprinkle out of a bottle. We put that. And then we're going to put another layer of the lasagna noodles. And again, they make ready for the oven lasagna noodles and just regular lasagna noodles. The only difference is the ready for the oven are thinner.
Okay.
But if you have enough liquids in your dish, it'll cook in the oven. All right, then we're going to take.
We're good. We're good.
We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
Then we're going to put rest of our onion and mushroom mixture.
So we're layering it up.
We are. We're just going to make and this is something that you could bake and freeze and have it ready. All right, then we're going to put.
I don't think we're going to have any left over.
You don't think so? We're going to put some more of our pumpkin mixture. Okay, and put that on. And then rest of our ricotta cheese. And sometimes the ricotta cheese is a little firm, so to help with the spreadability, you just want to stir it up. Now, a lot of lasagna recipes will call for adding an egg to it. This does not call for that, but you spread that on. And then again, some more of your cheese.
Wow.
Anything's good with cheese.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
I agree with
if it
you on
has
that.
cheese, you can make anything
Right.
that's not so good taste great. And then we're going to, we're going to put the rest of these noodles on top. Okay, and based on the size of your pan, you heard the story of the young married woman that got married and she was cooking a pot roast and she would cut off about, 3 inches off the end and cook it. And finally her new husband, finally said, "Why do you do that?" She said, "Well, my mother always did that." And so he just never understood. So she finally asked her mother. She said, "Well, my mother always did that." And so she said, "Well, I'm going to find out why." She asked her grandmother, "Why do you cut off like 3 inches of your roast?" She said, "Because my roasting pan wasn't big enough to hold the roast." So see, a lot of times, great cooks, usually a lot of their secrets are just out of necessity. So we're going to spread this on some more. We're going to put the rest of our cheese on top.
What are you doing like a pro? She
The
cooks
rest
and
of our
tells the
cheese?
jokes all at the
Yes.
same time. How about that? Isn't that great?
And then you want to cover this with foil because you need the steam to help cook the noodles. So we would cover this with foil and we
Okay.
would cook it at 375 for
375.
45 minutes. 45 minutes, take the foil off, let it cook a little bit more to help the cheese brown and melt.
Okay.
And then when you're through, this is the finished product.
All right, Sherri, so you know what I'm about to say, right?
Sure. What are you about to say?
Let's taste that.
All right. Let's
out.
taste
do
that, okay?
Yeah.
If you'll hand me a plate, I
Okay.
will get
Hang
you
you
a
more for Mr. D.
small piece.
Make sure you get the fork there. I don't want you to use your hands. over
Yeah,
there, Mr. D.
need a
Let me
fork
get you
and probably a napkin.
Okay. You do that.
Wow.
And again, this can be easily frozen as long as you cover it well with foil. I would put, plastic wrap and then foil again on top of it because you don't want to get freezer burn because then that's not going to taste very well. Okay,
yeah.
who's going first?
He's already beat me to
Me.
it.
Now remember, most people think regular lasagna is supposed to be full of meat and tomato based.
No meat?
There's no meat.
That's pretty good.
The mushrooms kind of give you the texture of the meat. The pumpkin gives you that texture. Now, I have done,
That tastes good.
to again help my children to get more of that vitamin A
Right.
and beta carotene, I will mix the pumpkin out of the can with my tomato sauce, and I'll make spaghetti and the regular lasagna, but I mix the pumpkin into the tomato sauce. So they have no idea that it's there, but they will after they watch the show, I think.
Hey, yes, they will.
That is good.
Yeah, we appreciate
Sure.
that. Tastes real
Very
good.
Sure.
And I'll get to the rest of this later. All right. There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks. Here are just a few that might interest you. Hi, Miss Sherri. Thank you again.
Sure.
That was excellent.
Glad you enjoyed it. Hope that some of the viewers will try it.
I'm sure they will. And like I always say, watch out, Martha Stewart. Somebody's coming to get you. All right.
Good, mighty good.
Yes. All right, Mr. D. Winterizing tools. How do we get started? What do we need to do?
Probably the first thing you need to do is to clean your tools after you use them. That's probably the most important thing.
Okay.
This shovel was hanging up on the set, and
Yes,
this
it's part of the family plot.
is part of the family plot. And this is an example of how not to store your equipment.
He's
Because,
stepping on my toes.
yeah, because where the soil is, where the dirt is, it will rust, and that can decrease the life of your tools. The best thing to do when you use a tool is to clean it afterwards, and then going into the winter when you're not going to be using them much this winter, it's a good idea to spray the metal parts with a penetrating oil like WD-40.
Okay.
Something like that is a good way to prevent rust. Clean it real good, and if you have any rust on it, knock it off with sandpaper and then spray it with a penetrating oil.
Okay.
The handles, it's important to, these handles are all hickory, and I know there are a lot of tools out there now with plastic handles, but these are some very, very old handles that have been taken care of by simply, in the wintertime, sanding them lightly to remove any splinters or burrs that you have on there, and then taking a boiled linseed oil. And 1 can will last you for 100 years.
Okay.
Boiled linseed oil, and put some on a shop rag, and then just rub it on these handles. And that will that'll give you season-long protection. It keeps the wood from drying out.
Right.
It also gives it some water repellency, and it'll hold you till next year, till this time next year. This hoe that I have here, this handle is one that I took off of this hoe. Now, this is a hoe that we used on our family farm up in Dyer County. There were 6 of us kids, and counting Mother and Dad, we had a crew of 8. And we chopped
Pretty good crew.
cotton. We chopped cotton first, and then soybeans and corn, and we relaxed by chopping one of the 3 gardens that we had. That's what we did.
relaxation?
That was relaxation.
Oh my goodness.
But we would wear a hoe down to this size, and this hoe didn't get broken on a weed. My mother didn't like snakes, and she used a lot more energy killing snakes than she did chopping weeds.
Wow, Mom went after
a lot
that
more
snake
pressure.
She went after that snake pretty good there.
But I took this hoe handle is probably this hickory handle is probably 40 or 50 years old, and Brooksy Palmer, my secretary, gave me this hoe. She had a hoe without a handle in it, and I just took the handle off of this and put it on that, and I should get another 40 or 50 years use, maybe longer, because I don't chop as much now as I used to when I was growing up.
Okay.
But if you take care of your equipment will take care of you.
Sure.
I always run a file across the cutting edges to remove any burrs that you may have on there, and I really don't sharpen the shovels. Digging in dirt will naturally sharpen them, but for the hoe, always sharpen it. Let it go into the winter. sharp, and you can tell I've got a pretty good little edge on that right there. You know, don't cut yourself.
Yeah, that's pretty sharp there.
Yeah, that right there will take a pigweed down, a big pigweed. And if it doesn't, we'll use the axe. But the same thing, sharpen everything, and clean the metal, oil with penetrating oil on the metal, and then lightly sand the hickory handles, and then treat with boiled linseed oil.
Okay.
For other equipment, this is my trusty pruning shears I've had since probably 1984.
Wow.
Felco number 2s is what this is, and
Real
you
good.
can tell that I've oiled those shears, and I have sharpened them. They're ready for a pruning demonstration in February. I'm putting these up for the winter. They're not going to see any use during the wintertime, because the wintertime is not the time to prune.
Right.
Right?
That's exactly right.
That's what Tanya told us the other day.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I listen to Tanya.
And not only have I winterized my pruning shears, I've also winterized my holster. I've treated it with leather treatment, and that'll keep that leather from cracking and going down on me. So take care of your equipment, and it'll take care of you.
That's something I've never done.
You got to take care of your holster.
You got to take care of that too.
Yeah, you got to take care of your holster too. Otherwise, it'll crack and it'll tear up on you. Yeah. And just a little bit of leather oil, things you'd use on your boots, your fine boots, you know, will work fine on that leather holster. But that will take care of your hand tools. Your small engines, things like that. There's a couple of, you know, change the oil if you have a 4-cycle engine. Go into the winter, you know, with fresh oil. Change the oil, because over the summer, you know, that will build up some things, and you need to go in with fresh oil. And then either run the gasoline out of the engine, or treat your gasoline with fuel stabilizer. If you do that, you can leave the gasoline in the tank.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, because I want to run mine out. I don't want to do any more cutting.
Well, I've got to do some leaf mulching, but no more cutting.
No more cutting for me.
That's right.
Going dormant.
That's right.
All right.
No ryegrass or fescue for me.
Not for me either. All right, here's our Q&A session. Ms. Sherri, if you have something to add, jump in there with us.
Okay.
We know you have that knowledge. Here's our first question. Can you control ants in the winter, Mr. D? Can you do the Texas two-step in the wintertime?
So we're talking about fire ants?
We don't know.
Let me put it this way.
Okay.
If there's an ant out there walking around, we can control it.
Okay.
But most of the time in the wintertime, you know, you don't see a lot of fire ants outside. Now, if you have ants in your house, then you can, you know, and they may still be active during the summer, during the wintertime, if they're under the house, under the foundation, and they come in and you've got food for them. And if I had ants, I would use Baitz to kill them. The Baitz.
Like Amdro.
Amdro is a good one, and you know, I have a whole list of them on my trusty little chart here, out of Red Book. We'll go over that right quickly. Basically, combat ant killing gel. Hot Shot has one. The Amdro, Hot Shot, Maxattrax, Raid. Those are all products that are out of the Red Book.
Okay.
But if they're alive and they're there, we can kill them. But you're not going to have as much ant pressure in the wintertime as you do in the summer, of course.
All right, there you have it. All right, here's our second question. Is it okay to trim my Bradford pear tree limbs, which are hanging over my driveway at this time?
You know, normally we don't recommend pruning this time of the year, but where Bradford pear trees are concerned, it's best to prune them off even with the ground.
Okay, so it's the one pruning
It's called severe renewal pruning. Just take them out, unless they're the improved the varieties that has stronger angles, stronger limb angles. But yeah, you know, this is not the time to prune. But if something's down in your way, you know, you can do that kind of maintenance pruning, and you know, if anything, maybe it'll make the tree die quicker. You know?
One pruning cut. All right, there you have it. Okay, we have time for one more question. And you'll like this one. Is this a good time to plant fruit trees?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Put them in the ground.
Oh yeah, he
says. Put them in the
says.
ground. Now's a good time to plant just about any kind of tree. Going to put them in the ground. Don't plant them too deep.
That's right.
Dig a wide hole,
Right.
not a deep hole.
That's right.
And plant them at the depth that they grew in the nursery. But this is a great time to plant fruit trees.
Okay. One more quickly. What is the best kind of manure to use in the garden?
The best kind of manure to use in the garden, I'm going to tell you, don't use hog manure.
Okay.
Don't use dog manure. About any other kind of manure is okay. University of Maine has a neat little publication.
University of Maine.
Yeah. Don't use cat manure.
No.
If you put manure out, make sure you have between 90 and 120 days before you pick any vegetables out of there, because manure has organisms in it that we often hear food is recalled because of, like salmonella, E. coli, things like that.
Yeah.
So make sure that you put the manure out now for your spring vegetables. Don't put manure on your fall vegetables that you're going to be eating now.
All right. Yeah, I got that. All right, that's from Mr. D himself. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. We've only got 2 more episodes of the Family Plot left in this season, so be sure to connect with us. Receive weekly email updates about Family Plot by visiting WKNO.org and signing up under Get Local Show Updates. I'm Chris Cooper, and be sure to join us next time for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.
Funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Good Winds Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.